Hey guys, Craig here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video I'm going to be telling you about the urban myth that is the Bunny Man. So if you like today's video, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And make sure you hit that bell icon to be notified every time I upload a new video. As always guys, these videos are made for educational purposes only and to create a talking point around a certain topic. I never mean any disrespect to the victims or to their family members. So now that we have that out of the way, let's get into the video. In the Clifton area of Fairfax County, Virginia, prowls the urban legend of the Bunny Man. It goes like this. There is a man who lurks in the darkness of Fairfax County woods, mostly around the Colchester Bridge, dressing as a giant bunny, with an axe in hand, ready to kill anyone who dares to trespass into his woods. The man isn't just a story, he's actually been seen, and legend has it that he kills to keep people off of his property. The legend of the Bunny Man dates back to the early 1900s. According to a Forbes article, there used to be an asylum in the Fairfax County area during the 1940s. As more and more people moved to the county, families became a common sight. The residents decided that they wanted the county to be safe for their children, so they didn't want an asylum around where they lived. Finally, they petitioned to have it shut down, and they actually won. Most of the patients had originally been in prison, but moved to the asylum as courts deemed them unfit. So once the asylum was shut down, these patients had to be sent back. Most of them were being moved to Lorton Prison, but the van that was supposed to transport them was met with an accident. It swerved off the road near Colchester Bridge, and everyone involved sustained injuries. But despite that, a second van was quickly brought in. While the guards counted everyone in there, they found that their worst nightmare had come true. There was one man missing. Douglas J. Griffin. Search parties checked everywhere in the area. The roads, the county, the woods, but Douglas was never found. It was almost as if he had disappeared into thin air. Eventually, the police had no choice but to stop searching. It seemed as though Douglas had used the woods to escape further. It was believed that he had left the Fairfax County area altogether, but he hadn't. Douglas wasn't an ordinary man. He was arrested when he was just 12 years old, after brutally killing his own parents on Easter Sunday. By the time he escaped, he was around 19 years old and clinically insane. And the gruesome murder of his own parents, well, someone that could do that wasn't in sound mind worthy. This is what made his disappearance so terrifying. At first it was thought he wouldn't come back to where he escaped, but then strange things started to happen. People kept finding half-eaten, mutilated rabbit corpses all over the woods around Colchester Bridge. It seemed as though there was someone living off rabbit meat in order to survive. But there weren't any other signs. No trails for the police to follow. Well, until one Halloween night. 3 teenagers went missing from Fairfax County. Their parents assumed that they were just having fun on Halloween, and since Halloween celebrations can get a little late, they didn't think anything was out of the ordinary. But the teenagers didn't come home at all that night. The police were called to help search for them because their families couldn't find them anywhere. As the search went on, they got to the Colchester Bridge. And there they found the bodies of the teenagers hanging from the bridge, mutilated in the same way that the bunny rabbits were found in the woods. It's believed that the teens were walking together to pick up a friend who lived across the Colchester Bridge. There, under the bridge, they met Douglas, wearing a horrific shaggy bunny head with a rusty axe in his hand. He told them to turn back. The woods were his property. The teenagers thought that it was a lame Halloween prank, but it wasn't. According to a version of this legend, Douglas stood on top of the bridge on the railroad after hanging the boys there. A train passed by and killed him. That's when the Colchester Bridge became known as the Bunnyman Bridge. People in that area believe that the ghost of the Bunnyman has been haunting this bridge ever since, keeping people off of the property that he believes is his. A year after the incident, on Halloween night yet again, a group of teenagers went to the Bunnyman Bridge to see for themselves. When they got there, the boys decided to scare the girls into thinking the Bunnyman was actually there as a joke. They made them leave the car, but as they got under the bridge, one of the girls felt too scared to go through. She pushed the others out of the way and ran in the opposite direction. Suddenly, the clock struck midnight. There was a bright flash of light, almost blinding, and when it faded, she saw that all 5 of her friends had been killed. Their bodies had been mutilated and left hanging from the bridge. She was horrified and sprinted towards the car, where she found an axe stuck in the windshield. On August 4th, 1918, a 14-year-old named Eva Roy went missing. Eva lived in a farm on Fairfax County with her family. They had emigrated from Denmark and had lived in the Fairfax area for a few years. At 9 a.m, Eva took a few of her father's cows grazing in the area. It was expected that she'd be back within the next 4 to 6 hours, but even by nightfall there was no sign of her. Eva's family looked everywhere that night, but they just couldn't find her. As the next morning came, they asked their neighbours and local police to help. A search party was made and everyone dispersed throughout the county looking for her. Almost 24 hours later, Eva's body was found hanging near the Colchester Bridge. She had been strangled with the apron that she had been wearing. After she died, she was hanged and left to be found by her family. During the post-mortem, it was found that she had been sexually assaulted before she died. The nature of the crime was serious. Her state was far too similar to the teenagers. However, to this day, the murderer hasn't been found. It is believed that the Bunnyman was likely behind it. It's likely that she wandered by the bridge while she was grazing the cows, unaware of the potential danger. She might not have turned around fast enough and paid for that mistake with her life. This was the point when the Bunnyman legend began. Every year afterwards, teenagers would go under the Bunnyman Bridge to see if he'd appear, but they would always disperse before the clock hit midnight, just in case he actually did. For a while, the killings did indeed stop. It seemed that the Bunnyman had moved on, but that didn't happen. The Bunnyman returned to the bridge in the 1970s. On October 18th, Robert Bennett, an Air Force cadet, and his fiancée were on their way to his uncle's house. To get there, they had to go directly under the Bunnyman's bridge. As they were making their way through it, a man suddenly appeared out of the darkness wearing a grey and white bunny head. He charged towards their car with a hatchet in hand. It was all very quick, and Robert had to slam on the brakes as not to hit the man with the car. As the car came to a stop, the man yelled something about trespassing towards them, adding, "I have your tag number." Before they could even process what they were seeing, the man flung his axe directly at their windshield, breaking it. Fortunately, it missed both of them and flew right between them. When they looked up, the man was already gone. They went to the police and explained what had happened, but since it all happened so fast and they were so shaken by what they went through, they couldn't really recall everything that they saw. All they could identify was that it was a man wearing a grey and white bunny head. The police searched throughout the woods, but like all the times before, the bunny man couldn't be found. This time, however, the bunny man did not stay hidden for decades. On October 29th, 1970, only 10 days after the incident with Robert and his fiancée, Paul Phillips, a guard, working under a construction housing society in Kings Park West, was making his rounds. As he did so, he came upon a man dressed as a bunny, with an axe in his hand, hacking away at the roof of one of the houses. He told the guard to leave, saying again that the woods were his woods, and that he was trespassing, and that if he didn't leave, he would chop his head off. Scared for his life, Paul ran away but immediately reported the incident to the police. From what he could gather from the size and voice of the man that he encountered, he gauged that he was around 20 years old, tall and of average build. Within the span of 10 days, 2 different incidents were reported where the victims saw that someone was dressed as a bunny. But it didn't make any sense. The legend started in the early 1900s. Even if this was still the original bunny man, he wouldn't be 20 years old. He would be over 70, and it would be unlikely that he'd still be running around with his axe. This begged the question, if this wasn't the bunny man everyone had always heard of, who was he? It was getting serious. Fairfax County Police had to open another investigation into the bunny man to try and find out who was terrorising the county. At this point, the man had attempted the murders of Robert and his fiancée, and threatened to kill Paul as well. Yet there were no leads that could help figure out where he would disappear to. Once he entered the woods, he was nowhere to be seen again. The police searched far and wide again, but they couldn't find any trace of the bunny man. But then, an article was published about the 2 incidents, alerting the public that there was a man who dressed in either a white bunny suit or wears the head of a suit over regular clothes. It also included the fact that he walked around with an axe or a hatchet and will throw it at people if he is angered. Residents and visitors were advised to stay away from him if they saw him, and they were encouraged to report any sightings to the police. This created widespread panic. Within the next month, 54 different sightings were reported around the bunny man and the bridge. The one thing that all of these reports had in common was that the police could never find any trace of the bunny man in question. He would always disappear. However, after the article became the talk of the town, the Fairfax County Police Station received a call. It was from a man claiming to be the bunny man. From his voice, he sounded exactly like the man Paul had described. Young, probably in his 20s. He told the police that he did what he did because he didn't want the housing societies to interfere with his woods. He says that the woods were his and that anyone that tried to trespass into them would find themselves at the wrong end of his axe. The police wanted to catch him, so they suggested that he come to talk things out with them at the bridge. He surprisingly agreed. However, when the police got there, they waited for hours, but he never showed up. At this point, there were several other murders in the area. A woman and her baby were killed and buried in the woods. A man and his 2 daughters were bludgeoned to death under the bridge, and several attacks took place where someone ran up to people at the bridge telling them to turn around. No one knows who the bunny man is. There is significant proof that he exists because of the sightings and the attacks, but there's no proof that he is just one person, since the first reports were in early 1900s. There is no way that the Bunny Man seen in the 70s is the same man that escaped from prison. The Bunny Man became a mask anyone could wear to commit the crimes that they wanted, and to this day their identity would remain unknown. The urban legend of the Bunny Man started off as a myth, but grew into something very real. Something even bigger. To this day, Fairfax County Police Department wants people to stay away from that bridge. You can still drive under the bridge, but if you stop under it, you're fined $250. Even if the story is just a myth, a legend, the incidents that happened were enough to scare the people of Virginia, even to this day. So guys, that was the urban myth that was the Bunny Man. What are your thoughts about this one? To be honest, the whole story gives me the creeps. I don't think that I would dare enter that bridge alone. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please smash that thumbs up button, because it really does help the channel get noticed. And turn on that bell icon so you never miss another video. And I will see you all next time. So take care. Bye!